Welcome to the Veranda Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Christine Mills. On the Veranda Entrepreneur Podcast, I feature entrepreneurs while I discuss ways you can grow your business today. Step onto the veranda, get a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's talk shop. Let's do this. Welcome to the Veranda Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Christine Mills. Today we have Michelle Olson-Rogers, the founder of Modern Boca Mom. Modern Boca Mom is the leading online destination for the modern and stylish South Florida mommy. I was a fan of Modern Boca Mom from the beginning while I was in Connecticut, so I'm really excited to have Michelle on the show. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
Thank you for having me, and I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for being a fan, Christine. That really, really does lift my heart.
Yeah, I just love what you're doing. So thank you for joining us on the show. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you grew up in Boca. Tell us about Michelle growing up in Boca. What was that like?
Oh, Michelle growing up in Boca. Very different than grown-up Michelle in Boca. But, yeah, I was born and raised. I'm one of those rare, actual, living, breathing Floridians. I grew up here, I know, right? Grew up here, went to school here, and then ended up going to college in St. Augustine, about 4 hours north of here at a small liberal arts school named Flagler College. And then after I graduated, I was recruited by one of my favorite companies, and I'm sure during the quarantine they're doing very well, Sally Hansen Nail Care. So I worked on yes, no kidding, right? I worked on their marketing team for several years, and then ended up moving into New York City to join a PR agency focused also in the beauty industry. But it was great, New York and Boca have so many, connections. We always joke around that Boca is the sixth borough because we have so many residents who like to snowbird down here or retire down here. So it was wonderful. I had a very magical New York experience in my 20s. And then after I had my first daughter, my only daughter, my husband and I decided to move back down to Boca to raise her where I grew up. So that's a little bit about my background in a nutshell.
Oh, that's very nice. And you are right. Finding a Floridian is very rare, especially in South Florida. We have similar parallels. I was born in Jamaica, but I was raised in Plantation, Florida, so it is very rare to find that. So what was it like to be living in New York City as a Floridian? I had a similar experience. My eyes are wide open to this major city. What was that like for you?
Living in New York was great. The hardest thing that I had to get used to was winter, obviously.
Yeah.
So I definitely, those were tough. The winter months can be very challenging, especially when you're used to sunshine and 80 degrees the majority of the year. But it was fun because I had several friends from college in Florida move up to New York while I happened to live up there. And so it was a rite of passage to teach them also how to get through the winters with the right coat, the right boots, all those things. That, when you live down here, I don't even think I had a sweater. Like the heaviest jacket I owned was a denim one until I was in college approximately. So, but it was great. I mean, again, like living in New York in your 20s, no kids. And, I lived with my boyfriend and then ended up marrying the guy. So we had a great experience because we were able to take advantage of everything that the city had to offer. And so I highly recommend that you be selfish in your 20s if you can. I always tell my daughter that, when she's graduates from college, she should head to a big city. It doesn't have to be the big city, but just to get that experience, because once you have children, your priorities really do change. You can't be as selfish about your time. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. So, where in New York did you live? Did you live in the city itself, or did you live in the outer boroughs?
So I started out on Long Island in a little town called Westbury in Nassau County. Sally Hansen was located at the time in Uniondale before. Yeah, this was before they were acquired by Coty, and then they moved into the city. And then when I got my PR job, I moved into Manhattan and lived in Hell's Kitchen pretty much the whole time I was in the city.
Wow.
I lived on different streets, but anywhere from 35th Street up to 48th Street, I kind of moved north during my time there. But it was great. Hell's Kitchen is very central to everything. It's walking distance from, the Hudson. So it's it was wonderful. Again, we had a great experience. The area was still developing at the time, so it was nice, but it still had some, New York grittiness to it.
Yeah.
But we loved it, and it was always a fun time trying to figure out how to live in a tiny, 1-bedroom apartment and a 4th floor walk up. I've lived in every type of building possible there, and it was definitely unique. You learn how to be a minimalist by necessity.
Yeah, that is true. I lived in downtown Brooklyn in Clinton Hills, so that was, and I commuted to the city. I worked in Midtown, so yeah, I still look back at that time with a lot of nostalgia, and it was a great time. Yeah,
it was. It is different now. It's so different now. New York, when we go back to visit, it's so much more expensive. I don't know what it is, what's changed, but New York is one of those cities that it's frozen in time for you in your mind. But then you go back and you're like, oh no, life continues without me being here, sadly.
Yeah. And you're right. It's like I remember I took the kids there, my husband, and I was like, yeah, this is where I lived, but it wasn't the same. The pizzeria that I got $1 slice from, it wasn't there.
No, I know.
It's very cleaned up. It's more expensive. It's very different. So yeah, you just have your memory. So, like you said, you do what you can when you can because things change and you change as a person. So, and then you end up moving down to Boca with your family, and your husband's from Maine. I love Maine.
He is.
And
Me
how
too.
How was that for you to come back to Boca in South Florida as an adult and after having lived in the city for a while?
I'm not going to lie, it was not an easy transition, but we had planned on moving back down once we decided to get pregnant. So it was always in the cards, but, the timing was a little funny because you never know when you're actually going to get pregnant and then have said baby. So it was tough. We both had careers in New York that were very relegated, I would say, to New York City. My husband was a documentary filmmaker. I was in public relations, and being in PR in New York is it's kind of necessary to be in the city because at the time, at least, we were always pitching to the magazines. So I would, take a car service one day and hit everything from Health magazine to Vogue and meet with all these different editors regarding my clients, and that's not as easy when you live in Florida. But times have changed, and, bloggers have become a really great medium to work with. And so I think that if we had stayed longer and the world was more like it is today, it could have been different. But anyways, we moved down, and I tried to commute to my job in PR. My husband decided to quit his and stay home with our daughter, and it ended up just being really hard. And so I ended up getting laid off from my company. It was just tough not being there and trying to work from here while, being a new mom, hormones. We had moved into a house that needed major renovations. It was just like, everything that can go wrong all at once did. And so then all of a sudden I was like, okay, cool. So I don't have a job anymore. My husband wasn't working, and I had to really think fast. And that's actually how Modern Boca Mom was born, was just because I figured, I've been on the PR side of things for many, many years, but I've never been on the media side. Let's switch things up. I'm burnt out from the PR side. I'm going to start a blog that can help me as a new mom in South Florida, because at the time there was really nothing online that was even aggregating helpful information. Where were the Mommy and Me classes? What restaurants could you take your baby to and it wouldn't be a big deal? And so I thought, you know what? Let me start this. I'll see what happens. I don't think I was necessarily considering in my mind that it was going to be my main career at the time. It was more like, let's just, see what goes on with this. And I started the blog, and within the first week I had over 1,000 hits. So I said, wow, maybe I'm not the only person in Boca or the surrounding areas looking for this type of information. Because, as a lifer here in Boca Raton, let's say, the demographic in our city has changed a lot since I was a kid. Yeah, I mean, it used to be retirees, and now it's really heavy on the single family because we've really increased our economic center here in the city. We have a lot of big companies in the former, IBM complex area. We have the Boca Raton Innovation Campus, BRIC. So that's attracting a lot of talent from, all over the country. It's wonderful, but it's just really changed who is populating this town. And so, whereas previous websites were kind of just targeting like the luxury retiree audience, there was nobody talking to the parents. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to be this person and try it out and see what happens.
Wow. I mean, within a week, you had 1,000 views. That is amazing.
Well, I really promoted it on Facebook and I believe mostly Facebook. Instagram wasn't as huge at the time. And my PR experience really lent itself to helping me get the word out about the blog. And it was a lot easier to grow on social media back in 2014. It's changed a lot now. I mean, really, those platforms rely on advertising dollars to really get your message out. So I think that really did help boost it. And I had a lot of friends from high school who were new moms too. So everybody kind of banded together and helped spread the word. And so that gave me the motivation to keep going and to really start just writing and taking pictures and going out there and just kind of figuring out what topics families wanted to know about. It wasn't that difficult because I was clueless as well as a new mom. And so I figured, well, what would I want to know about? There are 3 different types of swim lessons out there. What's the difference between them? Which one is better? That kind of thing. So I really did my research and got into creating this content that was personal, honest, but also provided something of value to my readership.
So so let's go back to when you first started your blog. So how often would you provide content? And like, did you create a calendar of like what you're going to talk about on a day-by-day basis, or were you pretty much following along the lead of your readers?
Well, I would love to think I was that organized in the beginning, but I definitely was not. I at the time I had a 1-year-old child, so I really just kind of created content whenever and wherever I could. There were many nights that I was up until, 1 or 2 in the morning, just writing, editing, figuring out how to get something published on my blog. I'd never used WordPress before. The only part that I really did feel confident in was social media. So I really tried to lean heavily on that. But no, I would say the calendar, the planning, all of that stuff really started to come in about 6 months down the road. At first, it was just trying to create a library, some sort of, place where I could have enough content to get started, and then I could be a little more strategic about when, how, and what to write about. Right.
And I love your content because it's very approachable and I love that it's central to South Florida. Like I remember when I was in Connecticut, I was like, oh, so that's what you could do in Boca. And that's what, you have all these nice pictures and you get and then you also have the entrepreneur profile that you do, your mompreneur. Can you talk a little bit about that as well?
Sure. Well, regarding the photos, I'm going to give a big shout out to Sweet Memories Photography because she's an amazing photographer partner of mine, Naomi, and we've been working together for many years now. And she is an entrepreneur, not a mompreneur, but I really, going into starting this blog, I myself was a mom entrepreneur, and so I wanted to give visibility to other local moms who were starting a business because when you become a mother, your career priorities can often change or, by choice or by necessity. All of a sudden, you're this high-powered lawyer, but then you decide that you don't want to be spending 18 hours a day in your office, so you decide to start your own practice, like different things like that. So nobody was kind of showing the hard work that these moms were putting in to kind of make something of their own. And my goal with that whole thing, and the questions are the same every week, I want people to tell their stories and talk about their challenges, their wins, and, all the, things that go into starting a business. So I wanted to highlight that. Entrepreneurship has always been very close to my heart, and moms now as well after becoming one. And it's a wonderful series, and I work to try to feature at least a couple moms a month. At one point, I was banging them out every single Monday. I would have a different feature, but it's a great addition to the blog. I really do love those features. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, I like them. And then also you scale and grow your business. So you started as a blog, and it was just you. Um, Tell us about the steps from 2014